You may have noticed that most of our projects are done using primitive tools and methods, so we go through a lot of natural materials. That means we need to always be in the mindset of collecting, harvesting, and restocking our supply. And there's a couple ways we can go about doing this, but our favorite strategy is the year-round practice of going on what we call treasure walks. Simply put, this is just the practice of doing regular walkabouts through new locations in the wild, just for the fun of being in nature, but along the way, we're keeping a close eye out for anything and everything that could possibly be useful to us someday, even if we have no idea what we're going to use it for. This also includes stopping to examine and study ancient artifacts and natural edible food sources along the way. The results of doing these regular treasure walks is a bizarre assortment of stuff in our wilderness office that most people would call worthless, but to us, they're treasures. Here's our most recent treasure walk, which includes one big find at the end that will surely end up starring in a future video. So right off the bat, we spotted a large stone that seemed a bit out of place considering its size and being all by itself up on the ridgeways. Sure enough, this is a Native American bowl that had been pecked out by a hammerstone and then set into the ground. These stones were used by Native Americans for pounding seeds, nuts, dried fruit, and dried meat. We found about 80 different bowls like this over the years. We're going to leave this one here for a future treasure hunter to find. Okay, careful here. We got to watch where we step because we don't want to stomp all over this treasure field that we just found. This is called Siberian miner's lettuce, revered by the natives that lived in these exact locations as a food and medicine. This tasty plant was used raw in salads, cooked as a green vegetable, and it was also used to make a hot tea for curing sore throats. And it's a great source of both vitamin C and A. One time on a survival trip, we mixed miner's lettuce with wild onion, biscuit root, and porcupine liver. Now, strangely enough, we haven't been able to find that on any restaurant menu since, but it was absolutely the tastiest thing on the survival food menu that night. Today, we're just going to use it for a bit of snacking before we continue our journey. If you've been with us for any length of time, you already know why we love the sight of a big stump like this. And we've really gotten to the point now where it's almost impossible to pass by any fir or pine stump without at least stopping to check for fatwood. We tell ourselves that we're just going to check, but more often than not, we can't resist. We end up lugging around big slabs of it for the rest of the day. So how much did we take from this stump? Well, you know how the ships in Star Wars are often shot in a slow, dramatic fashion to emphasize the scale and dramatic size of each craft? Well, for some reason, this footage just reminded me of that, and this piece of fat wood just seemed to go on and on and on. Okay, cut it. We got to get back to finding more treasures. You gotta love it when the only way to keep your feet dry is to tightrope a small log. But hey, we gotta know what's on the other side of this creek. And we found another fatwood stump. Well, we just tapped on this one a bit because we've already got an armful to lug around from the sample we collected from the mothership. This was an exciting find for sure. Wild ginger was an essential part of life for the Native Americans in this region. Aside from being used as a seasoning for food, it was specifically used for medicinal purposes to treat stomach ailments, headaches, earaches, toothaches, knee pain, and as a stimulant for energy. The fresh leaves were used as an antiseptic to treat wounds, and they'd even chew up the root, put it on a hook, and use it for bait to catch catfish. Now that's what we call a versatile plant.
There's a little salal plant down here. Now, these grow to be pretty large bushes, and they grow black berries that are pretty good.
Okay, with the sun going down, we would have already called this a successful treasure walk, but we were still lacking anything that we could use specifically for primitive tools.
What's this? Holy smokes. Oh my gosh. This is a beaver jaw. Look at that. Man, I can make another beaver tooth chisel.
Now, if you got to see our beaver tooth chisel video, you already know why we value a find like this.
That is really nice.
Don't be surprised if you see this guy pop up in a video soon to come.
Oh, this rotten stick.
I found this rotten stick, he says. That sentence sums up the family culture that I was raised in, where seemingly everything was valuable and worth being picked up, picked off, dug out, studied, examined. A culture where just about everything was esteemed as a treasure in the wild. And it reminded me of this proud moment as a father when I knew that my son would someday take the torch and carry on the treasure walk tradition.
Dada, look at that. It's big root.
Yeah, it's big.
Look at this piece of wood.
Wow.
The piece of wood. Come on, Daddy. Come on, Daddy. Come on,
And after a bit of research, we learned that this fungi that dyes rotten wood green was used as a decorative inlay in ancient cultures. So yeah, we're hanging on to this. The treasure hunt doesn't end just because the sun's going down. We know how important it is to keep our eyes peeled all the way up to the last minute, and we were thrilled to hit this jackpot.
Yeah, it looks like an elk. Oh, look at that.
But we pick up a lot of bones, and here's why. They are so valuable in making primitive tools.
Quite a splitter with that, or a knife.
So how are we going to use these old bones? Well, we don't know yet, but there's no way we're going to leave them out here in the woods. I mean, who would leave treasure laying around in the woods?
That is great.
But seriously, here's some possible future uses. How about splitting knives, arrowheads, spear points, harpoon tips, awls, needles, scrapers, chisels, weaving tools, fish hooks, beads, just to name a few. Wilderness Strong is bushcraft, nature, ethnobotany, and wilderness survival. If you want to support what we're doing, the best thing you can do is hit the like button, subscribe, leave us a comment.